Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS Hockey Report. I am Brock Seguin. I would know Zach Lang with us today. 9 game slate on our hands today, which is not normal for a Monday, which is why I'm a little bit later to the show, a little bit later with the charts. So it was kind of a last minute decision. The people in the Discord were like, yo, we're doing a show, right? And I was like, yeah, maybe. But here we are. So we got 9 games late. Probably going to get through this one pretty quick. Probably won't do some of the stuff we normally do, like no, obviously head to head with no Zach, maybe no hat trick pick challenges, depending on how quick we get through things. I got lots to get to this evening still, so it's already 4:45. Let's not waste any time. If you got any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat as we go throughout the show. I'll try to get to as many as I can. But yeah, really big slate. It's an interesting week just in general in the NHL this week, just given the state of all these games, 9, 10, 4, 10, 5 for the show this week. So it should be a fun week of DFO fantasy or DFO DFS shows here. So let's get to it. Jonathan Quick gets the start for the New York Rangers. We've got every single goalie, all 18 of them, either confirmed or likely here at dailyfaceoff.com today. So makes picking your goalie at least a little bit easier, or maybe not easier, but you can feel more confident, not have to worry too much. Hopefully nothing changes between now and puck drop. Philip Grubauer expected to get the start for the Seattle Kraken. Colton Ellis will go for the Buffalo Sabres. It's going to be Sergei Bobrovsky for the Florida Panthers. The Detroit Red Wings will continue to roll out the red-hot John Gibson, at least most likely. Frederik Andersen gets the start for the Carolina Hurricanes. Dan Vladar will go for the Flyers. It's going to be Jonas Johansson on the front end of a back-to-back for the Lightning. Jakub Dobeš gets the start for the Montreal Canadiens. It's going to be Nikita Tolopilo for the Vancouver Canucks. Thatcher Demko landing on IR yesterday. Jesper Wallstedt gets a start for the Minnesota Wild. It's going to be Jacob Markstrom for the New Jersey Devils. Likely going to get Spencer Knight back between the pipes for the Chicago Blackhawks tonight. Missed the last couple games with an illness. Connor Ingram confirmed to get the start for the Oilers, front end of a back-to-back for them. Darcy Kemper likely to get the start for the LA Kings, and he is likely going to face Jake Ottinger. It's going to be Trent Miner coming off of a shutout over the weekend. He's going to start for the Avalanche for a second game in a row. Scott Wedgwood is banged up, but good enough to back up tonight, so no concern there. And then it's going to be Joseph Woll for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Let's get to the first game of the night. We've got the New York Rangers and the Seattle Kraken. The Rangers are minus 136 home favorites in this one. Basically mirror images of each other, these two teams. Horrific offensive teams, pretty bad defensive teams, pretty good power plays on both sides. The only real difference is that the Rangers power plays or penalty kill is pretty good, and the Kraken's penalty kill is absolutely awful. Let's pull up the line stacks for game number 1 here, not 2 or 3. Here we go. Not a whole lot going on here outside of New York 1. They grade out in the top 10. They also are drawing about 4% ownership this evening. They project extremely well as well. So we'll get to all of that here in a moment. So let's start with New York 1. Not surprising here. The matchups on the Rangers side are splendid. The Seattle Kraken are very, very bad defensively. The Kraken will get Jordan Eberle back tonight. So they're going to go back to a fairly familiar look to what we've been kind of accustomed to seeing them as of late. Aside from the fact that Chandler Stevenson is still out, I believe he returned to Seattle to be with his wife for the birth of their child. So congratulations to him. We aren't always the kindest to his defensive metrics on this show, but on a personal level, congratulations, Chandler and company. But yeah, Eberle likely back in, so it's going to be Eberle, Beniers, and Kakko here. Schwartz returned over the weekend. He's going to be with Gaudreau and Tolvanen on that second line. So, the underlying metrics here for this top line have been really, really, really bad. Chandler Stevenson, second line without him. We don't expect much change. Obviously with Stevenson there, Gaudreau and Tolvanen and Stevenson struggled a lot. I don't imagine things will change too drastically with Jaden Schwartz, replacing Chandler Stevenson and Gaudreau moving to the middle. I could be wrong. This is kind of a mixture of what I could pull out from a Wowie for these 3 players, and it still wasn't very good. So, as bad as, the Rangers looked over the weekend, you'd think that they would like to show up for tonight's game. I don't know if they will. The home ice thing for them has been really real this year. Just the struggles have been horrific. So I don't really have a lot of interest in the Seattle side. I think that, obviously what happened over the weekend, hopefully for the Rangers, is a bit of a one-off. But that being said, Matt Beniers has been on fire. His shot volume has really come around. I've been a big fan of Eberle all year. Jared McCann's been playing really well. So I think there's some decent value options from the Seattle side of things. But from a full stack standpoint, I probably won't get there a whole lot on this 10-game slate or 9-game slate. Jonathan Quick has not been quite as good as of late. He was really strong early in the season, but not so much as of late. So there is probably reason to get to Seattle. And then again, on the Rangers side of things here, like this top line grades out well, right? The matchups are really good on this Rangers side of things. The underlying metrics are good for the top line and the second line. So you could probably get there. It's just a matter of how much you can stomach that, right? It doesn't, even if the matchups and the grades are good here, it does still feel like kind of a plug your nose type play. So speaking of Chandler Stevenson's line, has to greatly improve, removing the worst forward in the league from the line. Can't be bad. No, I said they'll probably improve. Just don't know how much. It'll probably help a little bit for sure. And it doesn't really matter, honestly, because I think getting to the Rangers is so difficult. But it is one of the better power play matchups of the night. The problem is the Rangers don't draw a lot of penalties, and Seattle is pretty disciplined. So, like, the power play matchup, the 5-5 matchups look okay here for the Rangers. Zibanejad's been pretty hot as of late. Panarin up to 7,900. Like, they've been playing well. It's just a really interesting game. And this is kind of a funny way to put it here. Trusting New York at home against Crew, who continues to defy logic. Yeah. And it's, like, so funny because I think we're all sitting here waiting for the other shoe to drop here for Grubauer, and it's just not happening. And it probably won't happen tonight with the Rangers struggling defensively. But yeah, it's a good matchup. So I'll probably get to some New York 1. I'll probably get to some New York 2, 5-10%, like you're seeing here, not seeing a lot of ownership. I do think it's a pretty decent leverage spot. Everybody seems to be scared of playing the Rangers, and it's hard to blame them. So yeah, I think it's an okay spot. It's certainly not a high confidence spot for me, though. Let's get to game number 2. We've got the Buffalo Sabres and the Florida Panthers. Probably a lower scoring affair here. The Florida Panthers specifically still really, really banged up. Brad Marchand not back yet. Matt Tkachuk not ready to return to the lineup. And I feel like they're missing one other forward. Am I right? Gadjevich. Yeah, Barkov, obviously. But yeah, so just those two really. And then on the blue line, no Seth Jones. So they're really banged up right now. The Sabres just continue to absolutely roll. We've been talking about the Sabres a lot lately, pretty just okay offensive metrics. They've really cleaned things up defensively. And then the Panthers have struggled a little bit defensively, but the PK remains very, very strong. So I don't really think this is a great game environment for either side. The Panthers are seeing a pretty healthy dose of ownership tonight, which I think is a little surprising. But, with the injuries comes added minutes, and it's a pretty good matchup here for this top line of the Panthers this evening. Second line, not so much. The underlying metrics for the top line, though, are pretty underwhelming. The second line's metrics are quite a bit better. So, again, I don't really think this is a great spot. Like, the Sabres are absolutely rolling, but it has kind of come at the expense, we've talked about it a lot, of their kind of DFS ceiling, right? With these new lines. Now, they're outperforming their underlying metrics a ton, too. So, similar to, like, the Grubauer thing, I feel like the other shoe is going to drop here for the Sabres, which, like, isn't really a hot take, right? Like, no one expects them to win whatever it's been, like 10 of 12 or 11 of 12. Like, obviously they're going to cool off, but to what extent? Obviously I still think like Doan and Thompson mini stacks are still very viable. The second line's been solid. I just don't really think this is going to be a great game environment. I really don't think either team is going to just light it up. If I had to pick anybody from this game, it would be Florida 2, again with Bennett and Verhaeghe. Verhaeghe's come on again a little bit, but yeah, without Marchand in the lineup, the underlying metrics here are still pretty good, just not great. So Bennett Verhaeghe's probably where most of my interest comes. Take a look at the power play report here. The Panthers do have the sixth best power play advantage. The Sabres power play or penalty kill continues to grade out poorly, but they actually are killing a shitload of penalties. So they're just giving up chances, but they're getting the stops. So again, it's not a great game environment. Probably won't draw a ton of my interest overall. Okay, let's get to the Red Wings and the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes are minus 144 road favorites. Really, really good offensive metrics for the Hurricanes. The Red Wings offensive metrics have just absolutely plummeted at 5v5. Power play remains elite, though. Defensively, they've been stout. Like John Gibson's been great. They had a really good game against the Canadiens over the weekend. Did a good job, denying zone entries and allowing the Canadiens to set up offensively. I think they'll probably have a little bit more difficult of a time here against a Carolina team that seems to have their number. The Red Wings, haven't, they got beat up by the Hurricanes a couple weeks ago. And I think the Red Wings are certainly capable of pulling off a win here. I just don't think it's super likely. Like it's going to have to probably be on the back of a really strong John Gibson performance. So that being said, a lot of interest in this top line for the Hurricanes. They continue to play together and they continue to play extremely well. They've got a really good matchup tonight. 98.6 on the matchup score is one of the best matchups in the slate, and the underlying metrics are outstanding. So it's just a matter of if they can solve John Gibson or not, because they have been just simply spectacular. They grade out 10th overall. They're really not seeing a lot of ownership tonight at 18,900. I think they're in a very, very interesting spot. I think the second line also represents a pretty good value option tonight. They're all very cheap. The underlying metrics are, just outstanding for this trio. So I think they're a really good value option. We've seen Stankoven score in 4 consecutive games. Taylor Hall is heating up a little bit since being moved up the lineup shockingly. And then Jackson Blake's always just kind of solid, maybe unspectacular, but their matchup is still pretty good too. They're going to see a little bit more of the Cop, Kane and DeBrincat line, which, continues to just, these two lines just continue to get good goaltending from John Gibson, but still giving up a healthy amount of offense. So I do think this is a tough matchup for the Red Wings. I think the Hurricanes probably win this game, and I think the top two lines are certainly solid plays. On the power play, the Red Wings do have the third best power play advantage, though. And the good thing for the Detroit Red Wings, and why I think that, they are so not so likely, but had the chance to win this hockey game, is that Frederik Andersen gets the start for the Hurricanes. Now, Frederik Andersen is actually, if I recall correctly, 15-1-1 lifetime against the Red Wings, which is crazy. I'm not going to put a ton of stock into that. At the end of the day, this is a goalie that is not the same goalie that probably won the first 15 games. He has just not performed very well at all this year. Pulling up his numbers here, a 16.7 quality start percentage, a 335 goals against average, and an 866 save percentage. Gave up 2 against the Ducks the other night in a relief appearance. In a game in which he only faced 13 shots on goal, still had an 840 save percentage. But dating back to November the 6th, that was the first game in which he's allowed fewer than 3 goals against. So during that stretch, he has given up 3.5 goals against. He has an 844 save percentage. So he is as gettable as they get, because he's just not performed very well whatsoever. So when you look on the Detroit Red Wings side of things here, the matchup to target is Detroit 1. The problem is I find them pretty difficult to get to. Casper not doing much offensively. Finney just okay. Like, I think they're a good option because of how cheap they are. So like I will click on them as a value option. Like, it's hard to stack, how often you can stack Dylan Larkin's line for 12,600. You just don't. So, but yeah, most of my interest, I think, comes via the power play, like DeBrincat, Kane, Cop. I talked about it on the DFO Fantasy Show today. He's quietly scoring at like a 74-point pace over his last like 20 games or something like that, which is just remarkable at 3,700. So most of my interest still, I think the high upside comes through the second line. The problem is that with Kane on that second power play unit, it's hard to target the Detroit power play because there's just really no 5v5 correlation. You've got Larkin from the top line. You've got DeBrincat from the second line. You got Van Riemsdyk and Raymond from the third line. So, like, I don't know, maybe you look at Detroit 3 a little bit. The problem with Detroit 3 is they're going to see a lot of the Jordan Staal line. The matchup's terrible. So it is, I like the Detroit power play. I like getting there in pieces. It's just, I think it's just difficult to build around and difficult to figure out exactly who to target. So for me, I think the priority becomes Moritz Seider and mini stack. So it's like Moritz Seider and Larkin, Moritz Seider and DeBrincat, Moritz Seider and Van Riemsdyk, and whatever. That would be kind of the route that I think I would target the Red Wings tonight, because overall, I want to get there with Andersen getting the start. I think this could be a pretty good game environment, and yeah, it's just difficult the way the Red Wings power play is kind of running right now, but it's working, so they're not going to change it. Again, third best power play advantage of the night. Let's get to the Philadelphia Flyers hosting the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Lightning absolutely crushed them the other night, but mostly on the back of the fact that Sam Harrison just not a good goalie anymore. I shouldn't say anymore. Never really was, but Dan Vladar has been much, much better. He gets to start tonight. The Lightning still minus 141 home favorites. They're playing spectacular hockey. The Flyers continue to defend well. But yeah, just basically they have a scheduled loss like every third game when Vladar sits. So with Vladar between the pipes, maybe a little bit less interest in the Lightning tonight, but I'm still going to get there. The top line specifically, fairly underwhelming metrics, for a Nikita Kucherov led line, which is a little bit surprising. They've still scored 8.2 goals for per 60, which is just remarkable. But the underlying metrics are just kind of okay. But they do draw the better matchup between the top two lines for the Lightning. So I don't mind getting there. At the end of the day, it's Nikita Kucherov, and that line can certainly get there. They're not really seeing that much ownership either. I think that they could still get to Vladar tonight, and I think they're a pretty interesting leverage option. Tampa 2 is super interesting to me, and I've been talking with them for a few weeks now. And the matchup here is far from ideal. But the underlying metrics are some of the best metrics that you will find in the NHL right now. They are simply dominating the opposition at 5v5. So with that, I think that they are always live to have a big game. You don't get the greatest ceiling from a guy like Srelly, but at 4,800, it's fine. Hagel just 6,600, I think is super affordable. Gensel at 7,100, like they're pretty inexpensive for these underlying metrics. So I will get there again tonight. I think that if Tampa came out as chalk because of what they did to Harrison the other night, I would think it would be probably an easy fade for me. But because they're so low owned, I do think there's the potential for them to be a pretty strong leverage play tonight. On the Flyer side of things, so it looked like Travis Konechny was trending towards coming back to the lineup tonight, and then he got hit in the leg or the foot, one of the two, in practice yesterday by a puck, and he's questionable again. He's a game time decision. I think he probably will play. I didn't include him in the charts just on the off chance, but realistically, it will affect the charts. Don't get me wrong. Philadelphia won. You just got to manually upgrade them. They would easily be within the top 15. The matchup, though, doesn't change, and the matchup is brutal. So I don't really think I'm going to get to the Flyers much tonight anyway. Like, yes, Jonas Johansson gets the start, so that gives you some reason to consider the Flyers. If Konechny plays, I would bump this top line up a little bit and maybe get to them a little bit. The problem is they're drawing some ownership tonight, about 7%, mostly Dvorak. He grades out as one of the best value options, except maybe the best value option. Second best value option on the entire slate. So you can see why he's getting there, in the optos and stuff. So I don't mind this top line. I like them a lot more if Konechny plays. So if he's in, I'll click on them. If he's out, I'll probably fade the Flyers entirely. The second line, really, really good underlying metrics. The problem is their matchup is as bad as it gets on the entire slate tonight. So I just don't think there's enough floor there to really justify getting there in any meaningful way. Power play continues to struggle despite generating a lot of quality looks. But yeah, it's a good matchup tonight. I don't trust it that much, but you can, and realistically, it's not really a power play we're targeting when they do this. The ride the hot hand situation. The Lightning power play grades out ninth best tonight, so nothing meaningful there. So I do kind of agree, obviously, with Vegas in this one that I feel is like a lower scoring game, but I do think the Lightning can certainly can get there. There's enough talent. They're playing some of the best hockey in the league. Can Lightning strike twice? Ha, possibly. I think it's certainly plausible tonight, without a doubt. Let's get to Montreal and Vancouver. So the Vancouver Canucks, I mean, I don't know what to say about this team. Like it always kind of just seems like one step forward, two steps back with them right now. They can't seem to get out of their own way. Tolopilo getting the start tonight. I mean, it's quite clearly a downgrade from Demko and Lankinen. He's been solid in his 3 starts in the NHL. I still think that Kevin Lankinen's a better goalie this day and age, or in this very moment. So yeah, I think that Montreal is in play. They're drawing fairly significant ownership, 8 and 7% between that top 6. The matchups lean a little bit more towards the Montreal top line. Second line, though, rated about average. The one thing that's super interesting about Montreal, and specifically Montreal 2, is if you recall, these underlying metrics for a while were awful. Like some of the worst offensive metrics in the league. And I could never justify clicking on them because of how bad they were. Now they look somewhat respectable, which means that they've done a lot of good things lately to dig out of the disgusting hole that they were in. which means that this line is definitely playing well. It reflects it in the box score, right? Like Kapanen's been hot, Demidov's coming on, Safkowski's had some nice games. So this line at 14K, I think is playing pretty well right now. They're pretty cheap. I don't mind getting them tonight against just a hapless Vancouver team. Montreal won though. Obviously, the line with significantly more offensive upside. The underlying metrics are good. Texier looks really good on that line. He had 2 3-point games, including the game with a hat trick last week. He can continue to stay hot. He keeps the price tag down. He's still only 3,700. One of my favorite value options if you want is one off him. But then if you want to full stack this line, I mean, they're just too cheap. Caulfield and Suzuki are just too cheap for this matchup. So 16,400, super easy to click on Montreal one tonight. On the Vancouver side of things, it's I don't think you can play them with any reasonable confidence, but this top line does draw a strong matchup. We know the underlying metrics for this line in the small sample size that they've been together has been outstanding. The problem is that they just kind of are rolling all four lines right now, and no one's really doing much. DeBrusque shot volume has been great. Patterson's only 5,600. Carlson's 3,100. I think if I'm going to play the Canucks, it's going to be this top line. They have the best upside. I'm not playing a David Kampf line. I'm not getting to whatever this bottom six is. So Vancouver one, I think is okay. I think there's enough volume here, enough floor at 13,400. They seem like an okay click, but yeah, it's tough. Tom says Montreal 2, roughly 100 minutes, last 10 games, 3.37 expected goals, 4/60. Yeah, that's exactly what I expected, right? Like they have just been awesome lately, which is good to see because they were so horrific earlier. Yeah, I think I could get to Vancouver one. DeBrusque, Pedersen mainly, mix in some Carlson. Not a super high confidence spot, obviously, with the way things have gone for the Canucks. They've scored one goal in their last 2 games, if I recall correctly. In terms of the power play in this one, Montreal 8th best. The Canucks are 4th best. The Canucks really only graded out well because they're expected to see a lot of power plays tonight. Again, Willander and company on that top power play unit, you could certainly justify it, just not with a lot of confidence. 8th best power play advantage for the Canadians. I just feel much better about that unit. The Canucks PK has really struggled this year. And the Canadians power play is good, 22.5%. They're fortunate to be there. They're not generating a ton, but nonetheless, I think it's a decent matchup for that power play unit tonight. Boy, oh boy, Minnesota and the Devils. So Zach's not here to just absolutely drop the hammer on Jacob Markstrom. So I'll have to do it in his place. So he had one of his best games of the season 2 games ago, stopping 30 of 31 in a 4-1 win over the Mammoth. Followed that up with a 9-goal against performance, a 625 save percentage against the Islanders. I gotta say, I've always thought that Zach's maybe a touch hard on Markstrom, and then that 9-goal thing happened, and I was like, all right, maybe he's right. Prior to that, his 5 starts before that, he had a 932 save percentage. So I don't really know what to make. He has certainly struggled this year. Oh, Zach's watching with us. So Zach, make sure to drop a comment about how much you hate Jacob Markstrom, just so we don't miss any of that on the show today. So, if I was Zach, I would be sitting here saying, you got to just hammer Minnesota tonight. And I think it's viable. I certainly do. I mean, I feel like whoever I've put on the thumbnail this year has usually had a pretty good night. Tonight it's Kirill Kaprizov. They're drawing a boatload of ownership. The top line grades out 4th best. They draw 7.7% ownership, 12% coming in on Kaprizov. The second line with Johansson, Hartman, and Matt Boldy, 9%. Ryan Hartman moving up to replace Joel Eriksson at $3,600. He was also on the top power play unit last game. He makes a lot of sense, right? Like that Hartman, it just makes this power play easier to get to. It makes Minnesota 2 easier to get to, and you can kind of see why you would want to get there. The matchups are bad, but it's a high event game. I think these two teams can trade chances. I like the underlying metrics that we've got here from Minnesota. So they're not so chalky that I want to stay away. So I'm not really worried about the ownership. They're chalky, don't get me wrong, but they're not so chalky. I really like the Hartman Boldy mini stack night. Like Hartman Boldy Hughes, I think is a nice play. Who grades out the best here on the blue line for the Minnesota Wild? Oh, Josiah Slavin. That's who we need. Not correct. Anyways, let's get back to this show here. So yeah, Quinn Hughes grades as the best value defenseman on the slate. Brock Faber, 5K, grades out really nicely as well, both within the top 10. So yeah, if Zach was here, he would tell you to stack the Wild against Markstrom, the Markstrom coaster. That's one way of putting it for sure. Um, the matchups do scare me a little bit, but the power play matchup is, okay. Their power play has definitely been better with Quinn Hughes. The penalty kill for the Devils has been quite horrific this year. Neither team draws or takes a ton of penalties, though. So maybe not the most penalty filled game tonight. We'll see about that. On the Devils side of things, the matchup's really good for this top line. Basically the whole lineup. The underlying metrics are really good as well. The Wild just don't give up goals. Their goaltending continues to just be unbelievable. But at 18,700, I don't mind getting a Hughes, Heischer, and Bratt. I don't know what to make of this Devils team. I think like every time I'm kind of like bought back in, they do something stupid and I'm just out again. And I don't mind playing this line. I've played them with reasonable success. They've lost 4 in a row, and they've lost 8 of their last 10, and the offense has been pretty dry. So I don't think I'm going to get to a lot of New Jersey outside of this top line. I'll click on them a little bit. Like the second line, the matchup's pretty good. They are cheap if you want to get to Meyer, Mercer, Dadonov. I just I have a hard time trusting this Devils team against Phil. Is it? I can't even remember. Is it Gustafson or Wallstead? I should remember this. It's Wallstead. Okay, yeah, I have a hard time trusting. Not that it matters really. Trusting that Devils offense that has struggled up against whoever would have gotten the start for the Wild tonight. Okay, the Blackhawks are over the field on Minnesota for sure. Yep, figured that would be the case. Okay, Zach's not here to chirp Markstrom, and Zach's also not here to break down this Oilers game. So hopefully I do it justice. The Blackhawks are healthy again. Missed a couple, Crevier was out, Soderblom was out, Knight was out, Mikheyev missed a game. Back healthy, everyone's back. They're actually playing fairly well. They just shut out the Predators with Drew Comesso starting on second night in a row. The underlying metrics don't do them much justice, but I do feel like they've played better as of late. But boy, running into a real buzzsaw of the Edmonton Oilers tonight. The Oilers are coming off a pretty disappointing loss against the Kings the other night. Kings in the second half of back-to-back after laying an egg in Winnipeg. And yeah, the one thing that scares me the most about the Edmonton Oilers is when they lose a game, the next game they just seem like McDavid just comes out pissed, which I think is probably going to be the case tonight. The one thing I will say is Edmonton won. They grade out number one. That's how good they are. Grade out number one, despite having a pretty underwhelming matchup. They're going to go head-to-head with that Jason Dickinson line, which we know is very good defensively. With Bertuzzi there, they grade out considerably worse defensively. So I'm not that worried about Dickinson shutting McDavid down. I don't think anybody shuts McDavid down. He's 22% rostered, highest owned player on the slate. So line's in a fantastic spot. If I had to leave somebody off, it would be Nuge. The underlying metric or the matchup is again pretty solid. The underlying metrics are unbelievably good. The power play matchup is second best on the entire slate. The Blackhawks, to their credit, have done a good job killing penalties. It's just so tough to defend this Oilers power play. So yes, 13% ownership, 22% McDavid. Like Zach will definitely be double the field. I'll probably be around the field, maybe a little bit over. I think it's a good spot for the Oilers. This second line has become a real go-to for me as of late. 3 games with Kasperi Kapanen back in the lineup. He's been solid. Colson's been solid. Draisaitl's been good, $9,200. They're 15,100 a full stack. They've got a significantly better matchup than the top line. They're going to see a lot less of Dickinson. They're going to see a lot more of Bedard, which is real good news. They're also going to see a lot more of this third line. They're going to see basically a 33, about 50% of the ice time against the those two lines, and that is good news. Their underlying metrics are not amazing, but they're certainly good, and they've got Leon Draisaitl, and they're feeling themselves right now. They've been really solid. So I think Kapanen and Podkolzin are a nice value this evening alongside Leon Draisaitl. I don't really know what to do with the Blackhawks. Bedard's obviously looked fine. He's looked good since coming back. I don't play them often. The matchups are really bad. They're going to see a lot of Edmonton 3, which have very good defensive metrics. The underlying metrics are solid. for the Bedard line. I think the other concern for me is this is 3 and 4 nights for the Blackhawks. I think the Oilers probably run them tonight, and I don't really have a lot of faith in the Blackhawks getting a whole heck of a lot going. 13th best power play advantage. There's just not a whole lot here that suggests the Blackhawks are a great play tonight. So maybe a little bit of Bedard for me. He is seeing about 5% ownership. I just don't think it's a great spot here, 3rd and 4 nights against an Oilers team coming off a loss. The Kings will host the Dallas Stars. Pretty low event game. I don't expect a lot of fireworks in this one. The Kings at home, their games are much lower scoring at home when they have the ability to match up. Whether or not that kind of holds true with Kopitar and company out of the lineup, we'll see. The real matchup in this game is going to be LA1 against Dallas 2. As you see here, Dallas 2 grades out very well. The Byfield line is going to go up against Johnston and Rantanen almost exclusively tonight. The Byfield line has very good defensive metrics. The top line without Anze Kopitar, far from good defensive metrics. So the door seems to be open here tonight for Hintz and Robertson to have a big night. They grade out 3rd best overall. And Zach and I usually talk about the lack of shot volume from Roope Hintz. Now, I don't know if it was just a one-off, but he's a couple games removed from a 12-shot, 15-shot attempt performance, which is just bonkers. But even before that, his last 11 games, he has still averaged 4.7 shot attempts per game. Obviously inflated by that 15 shot attempt performance. So if you take that one out of the mix, averaging about 3.5 shot attempts. So it's not amazing, but I don't know. Whenever you have 12 shots in a game, I think you're starting to show a little bit more of a willingness to put the puck on net, which it bodes well for Hintz. I feel really good about him at 6K. Him and Robertson as a mini stack for 15,000 feels fantastic tonight in this matchup. We talk about it with Maverick Bork. The underlying metrics have been very, very good. You can probably leave Bork off. This matchup looks real juicy for Dallas 2 tonight. Dallas wanted a bit more hot water. I'll probably get there a little bit less. This game basically drawing no ownership. I feel comfortable getting back to the well here with LA3. They're going to see a heavy dose of the bottom 6 of the Stars. The bottom 6 of the Stars, the 3rd line really bad defensively, the 4th line really good. But neither of them generate a lot of offense. So I do think that LA3, which is projected for 29% of the ice time, and then also just producing really strong underlying metrics, I think that 3rd line can continue to be a pretty decent option. It's just very difficult to put a lot of faith in this LA offense right now. I think the one thing that is worth mentioning, Jake Ottinger really struggling right now. He's given up 3+ goals in 4 consecutive games, and he's given up 3+ goals in 7 of his last 8 games, while posting an .879 save percentage, giving up an average of 3.3 goals against per game. So not great. I just don't really think he's playing well. And I think that LA3, even with the offensive struggles here, at least a little bit viable. Roope just gets 5 minutes less time on ice than Wyatt a game, which feels bad. Yes, I would certainly agree with you on that front. It's also $1,400 cheaper. So I think you get what you pay for type of thing, and the matchup looks better. So yeah, I agree from an overall projection standpoint. Certainly not going to project as well. Certainly not, probably as high of an upside play as a result, but he is also, saves you $1,400, which allows you to do a lot more. So they project, within 2 points of each other. The value is still worse for him. So I'm not saying Johnson's not a good play, but from a matchup standpoint, I think that one makes a little bit more sense. They're a little bit cheaper tonight. Actually, they're about the same because Robertson's so expensive. But you can never really go wrong, even if the matchup's tough. Johnson and Rantanen still going to be out there for 20+ minutes a night. And need I remind you that they have the best power play advantage of the night. Power play has been great. Kings PK sucks. So whatever Mikko and Johnston are going to struggle with at 5v5 because of a difficult matchup, they can more than make up for on the power play, which grades out really well. So I like the Stars a lot tonight. The top line, the second line, both the power play, all in play for me. They are seeing no ownership at all. I think the Stars are a great leverage option tonight. Let's get to the final game. We've got the Avs and the Maple Leafs. Save the best for last year. The Avs just ridiculous. What are they now? 17-0-1 on home ice. Just insane. The Leafs are plus 195 road dogs here, which, I mean, I don't know. It's just crazy to see. Like, it's just crazy to see how good this Avs team is. Top line, grades out unsurprisingly as the second best option of the night. Might be the best. I don't know. McKinnon, he's actually higher owned than McDavid at 10,300, 26%. Lehkonen, Netchas, as a whole, this line is the highest owned line on the slate. And followed by the second best line on the slate, the Edmonton Oilers. So those two are soaking up a boatload of ownership tonight. I think it's fair. The matchup isn't great. They're going to see a lot of Toronto 1, a lot of Toronto 3. Toronto 3 actually grades out really well defensively. Does it matter much? I don't know. This Colorado team just gets it done. The second line continues to grade out extremely well. Certainly can get there as well. Somebody pointed out the other day that, Colorado 2 not as good without Lehkonen. This offensive sample is sans Lehkonen. So they have been good. And Colton helped keeps the price tag down. Don't mind getting back to them. Also, significantly lower ownership than Colorado 1. Don't mind that at all. But yeah, Colorado 1, obviously a great play. Colorado 2, obviously a great play. Colorado 3, with all the injuries, is starting to look less and less viable. I mean, how much do you trust the Maple Leafs? They seem to be playing their best hockey of the season, coming off of a really nice performance with William Nylander back in the lineup the other night. Are we back in? Maybe. Tavares and Nylander great at the best. Seeing no ownership. They are way too cheap. Way too cheap. So I think you could probably justify getting there. With the way the matchups look, it's a little bit worse. The offensive metrics, though, are significantly better than the top line. So I don't think I'm going to get to a ton of Toronto. I think most of my Toronto interest would come like in a late slate type situation. They just don't grade out well. They don't look great, even with how cheap. William Nylander. Wow. Okay. He's projected for 13 minutes. There's an error there for sure. I'll get that sorted out here before the show's all said and done. But yeah, this line I think is too cheap, and they could be an okay play. But the two worst 5v5 matchups are power play matchups on the slate. So that's gonna do it for the line breakdown. Just if we go back here, just to reiterate who the top 10 here or so are. Edmonton 1, Colorado 1, Dallas 2, Minnesota 1. So like I talked about, obviously these two, everyone's gonna play them. But Dallas 2, man, real sneaky at 2% ownership. Minnesota 1, jamming Minnesota in if you're Zach Knight. New Jersey 1, I think, is a little bit more difficult to get to. Tampa 2, really, really solid leverage play, low own play tonight for sure. I think Edmonton 2 is one of the best value options. LA 3 looks like an okay value option tonight. Carolina 2 looks like a pretty good value option tonight. The Red Wings look like an okay value option tonight. I really like the Hartman Boldy mini stack. In terms of raw projections, who's grading out the best? Florida 1 grades out fantastic from a value standpoint tonight. Philly 1 as well, even without Konechny in the lineup. So those are all going to see some ownership just get jammed in by the Opto. So let's get to the defensemen and the goalies. Defenseman. Okay. So sort by value here. Phil Peronic grades out really well at $3,600. Sam Malinsky, unsurprisingly, continues to skate on that top pair with Cale Makar is going to grade out well. Brent Burns has come on extremely strong as of late, too, with the additional minutes. I think he's another solid value option tonight. He's not quite towards the top, but he should be. Am I missing him? Burns. Oh, he's right there. I was missing him entirely. 4K. I think he's a good play again tonight. Hronik, Malinsky. Lane Hudson's been playing spectacular hockey. I think if you're getting to Montreal, you want to get to Lane Hudson. Forsling seeing additional minutes with some of the injuries. Crevier, my guy, won me a lot of money a couple weeks ago or last week. He's been great. Brent Clark's been really good as of late. I like Brock Faber, Tom Willander at 2,800, still in the top power play unit. That makes sense. Don't mind getting to some Darnell Nurse. If you want to get to the Flyers, I don't love it, but I don't mind Risto tonight. He should block a lot of shots, which is good. Cam York's been playing super well. Who else? Who else grades out really, really, really well? Shot at Edouard Datus, always in play. Caden Gooley, don't mind that. JJ Moser still is $2,900. Let me know who your favorite value defenseman is in the chat, and we'll get to a couple before the end of the show. Let's get to the goalies. Jesper Wallstedt grades out as the number one goalie overall, also projected to see the highest ownership overall. I think it makes a lot of sense. The Devils team that's really struggling offensively, $8,200 is affordable enough. Trent Miner, I think that's obviously, coming off a great performance, super winnable game for them. I just think that it's a pretty penny to pay and probably a more difficult matchup and a less trustworthy goalie than what you're getting with Wallstedt. And Wallstedt actually projected to see more volume tonight. Dobish, I think obviously, there's some volume concerns there. I would rather just pay the extra $100 for Wallstedt. Colton Ellis and Jake Ottinger, I think, are both fairly risky. I just talked about, Ottinger's struggles. Yeah, the Panthers are banged up, but Ellis is, I think, I don't know. I told you, I think the shoe's going to drop here for the Sabres eventually, and I don't want to be holding the bag when it does, but I don't mind $7,800. I think he's, okay. Probably not paying $8,100 for Johansson. Like, even if he wins that hockey game, the volume is probably going to be limited. Ingram, as the most expensive goalie, just does not feel good. So, feels like more of a paydown night outside of Wallstedt. I think John Gibson, the way that he's played at $7,400, the volume that he's going to see tonight, he could be a tournament winning play. Philip Grubauer, same thing. I mean, this is a Rangers team that struggles to score. Grubauer has quite literally been one of the best goalies in the league this year. I know it's crazy to say. He is the second best goal saved above expected per 60. Only Ilya Sorokin is ahead of him. He's been that good. So, I mean, at $7,500 against a team that's struggling to score, the Kraken defense is so bad, he's going to get volume. So, I think it makes sense. Markstrom, probably not. Wool, probably not. Bobrovsky, I don't mind. Tolopilo, I don't mind. 6,500, man, opens up so many options. It's gross. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he can pull out a win, though. So, yeah, I think Tolopilo makes some sense. Uvis, if he's power play, won again, 20-plus minutes last game at 2,500. Yes, for the Florida Panthers. Uvis Belinski's, he is, where did he go? Uvis. Yeah, he's our 14th best value defenseman, projected for 19 minutes at $2,500. Makes a ton of sense on the blue line. All right, we got 5 seconds left here for a hat trick pick challenge. So let's do it. If you want to participate in today's hat trick pick challenge, all you got to do is drop your comment, your hat trick pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube, not the live chat. If your player scores a hat trick, we'll get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear, and you can pick some DFO swag. If a player that scores a hat trick that nobody picked, we'll just raffle it off to anybody who submitted a pick. Let's get to it. My hat trick pick for the night. Brock's lock of the day on the DFO Fantasy Show was Connor McDavid anytime goal. So let's go with the Connor McDavid hat trick. Why the hell not? Highest owned player on the slate. Low hanging fruit. I'm so sorry. If you want me to go off the board a little bit, my secondary hat trick pick, if you will, give me. I want to say Ryan Hartman. Why not? Those are my 2 hat trick picks. I cheated. So now you guys can't take McDavid. Nathan McKinnon's out there for you. Thanks so much for tuning in. A little bit rushed today. I apologize for that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you so much to RotoGrinders for providing projected ownership for today's show. If you want to get 20% off your first month of RotoGrinders Premium, all you got to do is click the link in the description of the video on YouTube. Also get $20 off. No, sorry, $20 off your first month of RotoGrinders Premium. You get 20% off Action Network Premium. You can also join the DFO DFS Discord, which is where these charts are posted. We also have a, what's it called? A contest every single day. Zach's posted a contest in the Discord if you want to come in and play against everybody who's in the contest. Super cheap to enter. Always a lot of fun. Can we have secondary picks? Absolutely not. No, just me. That's going to do it. See you back here tomorrow. We got another big slate tomorrow. Going to be fun. Enjoy. See you back here then. Cheers.